This is CBC Here and Now.
Now, Terra Nova is a challenging one.
That's going to be a hard pill to swallow for our members.
It's still not over.
An extension for the Terra Nova oil field is looking less likely.
A decision is coming next month, but needs all of the project's owners to agree.
Some mild, humid air, the story today, but as we head through the day tomorrow, some cooler, drier air is about to move in.
Passport, let's be clear, it is an encroachment to a certain extent on your civil liberties. It might be necessary so that we can get back to living a normal life.
Could vaccine passports become a reality for travel?
It's a question we're looking at tonight as some Atlantic provinces announce reopening plans.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes.
Some ominous signs today about the fate of the Terra Nova oil field.
Yes, the man in charge at Suncor Energy says a decision about its future will be made in a few weeks. And he's hinting that total abandonment of the field is growing more likely by the day. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
Now, Terra Nova is a challenging one.
Suncor CEO Mark Little was grilled by analysts during Investor Day in Calgary on Wednesday. Will the 7 companies involved with the Terra Nova reach agreement on a costly overhaul for the oil-producing vessel? Little says it doesn't look good.
But honestly, we've been doing this for many, many months and working it very diligently, and it doesn't look like we're going to get there.
The Terra Nova has not produced oil since late 2019. A planned refit was derailed last year by the pandemic, one that would see another 80 million barrels of oil produced over a 10-year period and protect the nearly 1,000 jobs linked to the oil field. But even with the promise of millions of dollars in public money and a break on royalties to the provincial government, there remains doubt among some of the oil companies involved, and it's an all-or-nothing effort.
It needs to be unanimous, but if there's any dissenters associated with it, we go into abandonment. So it's far easier to go into abandonment than it is to be able to get asset life extension.
As of today, I still remain hopeful that something can happen, but a lot of it is not simply within the province's control.
The specter of decommissioning of one of the province's 4 mature oil fields is a worrying one for the energy minister. Andrew Parsons says the province is fully engaged, but he's being careful not to rock the boat.
The last thing I want is something I say. What I can tell people is that this is being worked on every single day. Right now, my attention is fully on what do we need to do to see this production continue on into the future.
That's going to be a hard pill to swallow for our members.
This union represents nearly 300 workers on the Terra Nova. Nearly all of them have been laid off.
The union is doing whatever it can to help push the government, to help push the operators, and we're doing everything we possibly can. We hope they are as well.
Suncor is a partner in all 4 offshore oil fields and is pushing hard to save the Terra Nova. But the window is closing on an agreement.
But we'll find out on June 15th.
It's still not over.
Despite global efforts to reduce carbon emissions, many leaders continue to see oil and gas as a pathway to help the province recover from a financial crisis.
Everybody needs to work in this province. What do we have left when we don't have the oil? Not much.
And believe a decommissioning of the Terra Nova could be the start of a domino effect, one that could undermine an industry that has contributed vast wealth to the province. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
More COVID cases today tied to the cluster in central Newfoundland. There are 3 new confirmed cases that are close contacts of the previous cases. This brings the cluster to 49 people. Another 11 people have tested positive through rapid tests and are waiting to be confirmed. A 4th case in central is from domestic travel. There were 2 more cases announced today, a travel case in eastern and a case in western that's under investigation. The PEI and New Brunswick governments have released reopening plans that could be a sign of what's to come for this province. So let's start off by taking a look at PEI. Easing of COVID-19 restrictions will take place in 3-week increments starting on June the 6th. It includes an opening without isolation to partially vaccinated people in the Atlantic region starting on June the 27th, and to people with approval from other parts of Canada starting on August the 8th. Now, those not vaccinated will have to do a shortened self-isolation, but visitors and residents returning to PEI will be tested upon arrival. Then, in mid-September, many public health measures will be lifted. Anyone can travel to PEI without needing to isolate as long as they are vaccinated. PEI Premier Dennis King says he spoke to the other Atlantic premiers last night about the plan.
As I say, each individual jurisdiction for the time being will have their own regulations and restrictions, but I suspect that we will all be essentially aligned toward the end of June with the movement of Atlantic Canadians via the Atlantic bubble, whenever we could come to a date that all are comfortable with.
Now, New Brunswick's plan suggests travelers from Quebec border towns and Atlantic provinces can enter without isolating, and that can start on June the 7th. As long as 75% of residents have one dose and that cases are low, it plans to open up to Nova Scotia on July 1st, since that province is still dealing with an outbreak. New Brunswick is also hoping to open travel with its American neighbor, Maine, on July 1st, if the federal government will allow it. The Newfoundland and Labrador government said yesterday it will announce its reopening plans next week.
Well, with places like PEI planning alternative rules for those who are vaccinated, things can get complicated. For instance, how do people prove that they're vaccinated? So far, more than half of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have received at least one dose. One option could be a vaccine passport. Here Now's Mark Quinn examines that controversial idea.
Remember crowds? The very sight of them makes some people uncomfortable now. But some health experts say vaccine passports could make gatherings like this possible again. Some people on Water Street in St. John's are all for it.
I think it's a great idea because the most important thing is to keep us all safe and protected.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I have a daughter who lives in the UK, so I'm hoping she's going to be able to have one, so when she travels next summer, it'll be a lot easier for her to get here.
It'll make the process a lot quicker. You wouldn't have to waste time on sitting there and evaluating whether or not the person does have access to those services. I think it'd definitely speed up the process.
But it could get complicated. The province's privacy commissioner isn't against the idea, but he says we should think hard about vaccine passports before saying yes.
A vaccine passport, let's be clear, it is an encroachment to a certain extent on your civil liberties. It might be necessary so that we can get back to living a normal life in this context, but it really needs to be necessary, demonstrated to be necessary, and then the minimum possible invasion, and then ended once it's no longer necessary.
Back on Water Street, some people have already made up their minds.
It is illogical, it's against their human rights, it's against probably the Charter of Rights. You can't do that to people. I don't even know if you're allowed to mask us up like we do.
Provinces such as PEI say they'll soon start relaxing restrictions on travelers who are fully vaccinated. But we don't yet know how you'll prove it. If more places inside and outside our country follow suit, the pressure on provinces and/or the federal government to issue vaccine passports may grow. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
I'm Colleen Connors in Deer Lake, and I'm going to tell you all about Isla View Day.
It's our definitely favorite day of the year.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. It allows us to stay connected with Isla and remember all the good memories.
A day dedicated to Isla Short, and a day her parents are now using to turn their grief for their loss for her into something very good.
Temperatures today absolutely beautiful through parts of Central, reaching the 21-degree mark for Badger, 19 in Lassie. And take a look at the humidex values. Even here in St. John's, it felt a little bit humid earlier this afternoon, and those humidex values are feeling more like 22 to 24. Now, since the afternoon has gone on, we've certainly seen those humidex values drop down to feeling more like 19 in Lassie, even right now feeling more like 12, so that humidex value certainly changed. And the reason for that is because we're going to see a cold front sweep through, and as it does, we're going to see those temperatures drop and much cooler and drier air in behind that. It means we're going to see a pretty quiet day tomorrow, but I'll get into all of those details when I come back.
Not Not long ago, the province did major work to renovate the exterior of Confederation Building's East Block. It spent tens of millions of dollars on a project that wrapped up in 2015. Now, at the time, officials said they were hopeful the repairs could help the building perform well for up to 6 decades. But only 6 years later, there are problems. Here and Now's Rob Antle has the details.
The provincial government usually tries to keep leaks from coming out of Confederation Building, but now it's once again trying to keep leaks from coming into the building. This was the scene back in 2015. Underneath, major repairs were underway, including new blue windows. In total, a $56 million project. Started in 2009, 6 years to complete the job. A show and tell for the media to explain the importance of that work.
You just can't do half a job. You had to keep going with it until because we want to make sure when the project is finished, we have a building that's going to perform for the next 60 years.
It's been 6 years, not 60, but there are already problems. An internal government briefing note says that since completion, water penetration has occurred on all elevations of the building.
Several times, yes.
Back in 2013, there were red flags raised over those blue windows.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that some of the newly replaced blue windows are faulty. I asked the Premier, is it true that these windows will have to be replaced, and if so, at what cost?
The Honourable the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bluest thing in Confederation Building today is me having to answer these kinds of questions.
According to the internal briefing note, it has not been definitively determined that the current leaks are caused in whole or in part by deficient work or materials under this contract. The Infrastructure Department didn't make anyone available for an interview, but in a statement says it plans to proceed with a consultant to figure out next steps on repairs and if this is covered under warranty. So far, $90 grand has been spent on the consultant. In the long run, it's not clear how much all of this might cost taxpayers. A big chunk of the briefing note was blacked out, in part because it could be harmful to the financial or economic interests of the government. The last round of work was initially projected to take 3 years and cost around $20 million. It took twice as long to finish it, at nearly triple the price tag. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, to the Buren Peninsula now, where the town of St. Lawrence is fundraising for a fisherman's memorial. 1 year ago, the fishing vessel Sarah Ann overturned in Placentia Bay. 4 men lost their lives in that accident. The memorial will honor those men as well as 3 others who died in 1995 after going to fish for scallops aboard the Jessie Marie. The organizers of the memorial have been fundraising for the past 5 months, and they plan on placing the memorial on the beach looking out over the harbor. Well, tomorrow is Isla View Day in Deer Lake, and it's a day dedicated to a little girl who lost her battle with cancer in 2017. Isla Short was just 3 years old.
Her parents started the Isla View Foundation to raise money for sick children and their families. And they have a big fundraiser planned for tomorrow. Here and Now's Colleen Connors reports.
Her sweet little face is on every poster in the Isla View studio. Isla Short was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a cancer that forms in certain kinds of nerve tissue, when she was just 1. She fought hard for 2 years but passed away in November 2017. To keep love at the forefront, a family member wrote a book about a community called Isla View. It's a play on words, of course, Isla View. The more you say it, the more you smile. And Deer Lake becomes Isla View every year at this time.
It's our definitely favorite day of the year.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
The day is now a major fundraiser, with market and bake sale donations going to families with children fighting a life-threatening illness.
No family should have to give up their house or their car or their health insurance because their child's sick.
Yeah, so we've helped at least 70 families so far with over $175,000 in financial support.
As part of Isla View Day, the Shorts have asked children to submit their favorite jokes for a chance to win a big prize.
Yeah, so Isla loved telling jokes, and the whole time she was in the hospital, she would often come up with jokes, or we would teach her jokes, and she would tell them to the nurses and the doctors.
What was a favorite?
Oh, definitely. She definitely had. Well, I'm thinking is how do you make a tissue dance?
Yeah, put a little boogie in it.
What do you call a man with a rubber toe?
What?
Rubber toe.
Roberto.
Where does he pull the whale keep his money?
Where?
In a snowbank. If you pass a vampire and a snowman, you will get a frostbite.
We want to always get kids involved because obviously that's something that's just so important to show kids the importance of a foundation like this to help other children.
The jokes, games, and fundraising goes all afternoon tomorrow, with the major goal to grow the foundation.
It allows us to stay connected with Isla and remember all the good memories.
I mean, we could stay home all the time and just stay home and do nothing and just live in that really heavy grief, or we can put it towards something good, and that's what Isla was like. So I think this is the way we always want to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Michael and Sarah Short say the goal of the I Love You Foundation is to have fundraisers happen in communities all across Newfoundland and Labrador, because all the money raised goes to sick kids and their families right here in this province. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Deer Lake.
Well, it is windy out there. You can see the camera moving. We're not really going to see any relief from this wind for a little while, and it's also going to be a little bit unsettled over the next 24 hours, but I'll get into those details coming up.
There are some big ideas growing right here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
We were going to help people who are not growing things at home and maybe don't have the means to grow them.
CBCNL and the Food Producers Forum have teamed up to bring you a brand new series about the local food movement.
The way it was told to us, there was a gentleman growing it here in Newfoundland. For some reason, the garlic he had got shipped out to British Columbia. We're trying to develop that variety of garlic.
Those diggers, those dreamers and innovators who are building healthy food communities right here at home.
We feel like we are custodians of this special Newfoundland tall variety.
Catch from the ground up on Here and Now, CBC Radio, and online.
Welcome back. Well, for hikers coming across a fresh pile of moose pellets, that's something you just want to step around. But for one biology student, those pellets are perfect.
Yes, Michaela Swain is studying how moose impact our forests since being introduced to the island more than a century ago. So hold your nose and have a look.
My research is very overarching. I have so many different methods. I'm looking at so many different things. But as soon as I say pooping, that's all anyone hears. You know, I don't study directly the moose poop, but that's all that matters. And same with my family. You know, it's, oh, you're studying moose poop. You're the moose poop girl. And so I guess that's who I am now. Hi, my name is Michaela Swain. I am a master's student in biology at Memorial University. So what I look at is how moose are having these cascading indirect impacts that are reaching into soil function. Especially with moose not being native to Newfoundland, you really have to look at how every aspect of their presence is impacting their new habitat. It's pretty hard to miss that right here we've got a pretty good deposition of moose poop. So you can tell that a moose was probably around here in the last few days. From this piece of poop, you can actually see a lot of the kind of woody pieces left over from it eating a tree. Moose do prefer very high nutrient and nitrogen-rich woody species. So moose are taking away nutrients by eating trees and transporting it to a different area. You know, this area is going to be really prosperous for a little while. Changes in nutrient cycling, changes in the insect community on the ground, changes in microbial communities that can help with turnover. I always thought that I would go on and study something super exciting and big, and in a way I am. I'm studying moose. They're super fun and they're really cool, but I'm also studying dirt, which, you know, is a little bit more of, you know, the non-glamorous part, but I love it because from dirt you can learn so much about the health of an ecosystem. The funny thing is I spent hours and weeks out in the field this summer. And not once did I see an actual moose. Yet I feel like I have a bit of a connection with them. You know, I've held their poop. You know, how more, you know, connected can you get? And although I don't see them directly, you know, it's cool. Everything that I touch, everything that I see, you know that it was there.
This weather update is brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. It's time to explore the Great Wide Open. Plan your trip at yourbackyardbeckons.ca.
I think we all need a breath of fresh air now. Talk about how nice the weather was, some nice temperatures, and lots of wind though.
Lots of wind. We've been talking about the wind for a
long
while
time.
now. Yeah. And today was no different, but the temperatures were fairly nice out there. You could feel, I don't know if you got outside today, but you could feel the little bit of humidity in the air, certainly. Let's take a look at the temperatures today across the board. 15 in St. John's, 18 in Gander, and then we saw a temperature near 21 degrees in Badger. Corner Brook reached a high near 17 degrees. That temperature in Lab City at 10 was after midnight, and those temperatures have been falling through the day quite drastically down to 1 degree in Labrador City today. You woke up, or yesterday, saw some rumbles of thunder and woke up to snow this afternoon, or at least this morning rather. Temperatures right now still sitting pretty nice out there. 12 degrees in Lassie, so your temperature has dropped quite dramatically, and 12 in Corner Brook and 11 right now in St. John's. Taking a look at those humidex values again through the first half of today, we saw them around the 21 to 23 temperature range, and we have seen that drop now through the day, and we saw lots of showers roll through as well, even around Pooch Cove. Heard some rumbles of thunder earlier this afternoon. Some showers are working their way across eastern Newfoundland as we speak. And you can see those. We'll probably see showers for the next couple of hours, but then things should actually clear out as we head through the evening tonight, keeping things fairly dry for the most part with some clearing skies after midnight. Going to take that chance of showers, or the chance of showers will continue for the northern peninsula as well as southeastern Labrador. And then that potential for some flurries, again, sticking around for northern Labrador as well as the west. couple of centimeters certainly possible as we head through the night tonight and into the early morning hours tomorrow. Other than that, going to be a fairly quiet night, but these winds are going to stick around out of the west, anywhere from 40 to as much as 50 or 60 kilometers per hour. Temperatures are going to drop as well, down to the mid-single digits, 2 to 5 degrees for the most part. Northern Peninsula a little bit cooler with that chance of showers, as I mentioned, and then staying around 7 or 8 degrees for parts of the Avalon. As far as Labrador goes, though, there's those cooler temperatures down to -4 tonight in Lab City, 0 in Nain, and then hovering about a degree above 0 for the remainder of the Big Land. Now through the day tomorrow, not a whole lot happening. However, we will see some increasing cloud for the west and central as the day goes on, even the risk of some showers or flurries in the higher elevations along the west coast as we get into some of that cooler, drier air through the day tomorrow. Pretty unsettled across Labrador as well. Either showers or flurries, the story for the north as well as the west through central Labrador and even coastal areas as well. You'll still see some sun through the day for sure, but also that risk of some showers for the southeast and even for the Northern Peninsula as the day goes on. And then into the evening hours as well, you'll see that push of cooler air move in, so it will change over to the potential for some flurries for central Labrador into the early morning hours. So tomorrow temperatures should stay into the double digits, so a couple of degrees cooler than what we're seeing today, and the winds are going to stay brisk, anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour out of the west, keeping temperatures between 10 to 12 degrees, a little cooler for the Buren Peninsula, 9 degrees for Marystown tomorrow, and then same thing for the south coast of Newfoundland as we head into tomorrow afternoon for Harbour Breton. You're looking at 7 degrees, and then around 9 through central, and you'll note much drier air and that increasing cloud as well through the day. As we head towards the west coast, there's those cooler temperatures, 6, 7, 8 degrees as your daytime high. The winds going to stay out of the west and breezy, 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. And again, in those higher elevations, there is a risk we could see some flurries in the mix. It shouldn't accumulate too much, but that risk is still there for sure. And then as far as the Northern Peninsula goes, you're looking at a mix of sun and cloud for most of the day, temperatures into the single digits. And then for essentially Cartwright northward, that's where you're going to see that potential for some flurries in the mix. Note your wind shift from southwesterlies to northwesterlies as the day goes on. As far as northern and western Labrador goes, your temperatures will be sitting between 3 to 5 degrees, and also that risk of flurries with your winds out of the northwest, 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. So the weekend's looking fairly quiet, but I will get into all of those details when I come back.
Well, tonight we're starting a new series about growers who are part of the food movement in this province.
Yeah, From the Ground Up is a collaboration with the Food Producers Forum, and we're starting with a couple who are trying to revive a rare heirloom crop.
And launch a program to donate raised beds to families in St. John's. I went to the Avalon's southeast coast to check out their farm. We're here today on this beautiful hilltop in Fairyland on a farm where something very special is growing.
Is called Newfoundland tall. We love garlic. A lot of people love eating garlic. It's a Newfoundland heritage garlic.
So this is the Newfoundland tall garlic, the special garlic.
The thing about Newfoundland tall is it does grow rather tall. It's a hard-necked garlic, and the cloves are the bulbs rather, are absolutely huge. So we're looking forward. It's our first year growing it. Somebody gave us some last fall to plant, and we're trying to develop that variety of garlic, and hopefully we can spread that across the province to anyone looking for garlic. Yeah, that'll get like my fist. I haven't even tried eating it yet because we don't want to eat any of it. We want to just keep growing it.
We feel like we are custodians of this special Newfoundland tall variety.
There are a few other small farmers like ourselves who are involved in a project that we're all working together on in order to build the number of bulbs that are available across the province. The Guerrilla Garlic Growers. So I'm one of the three stooges in that. We're in the process right now of working with some groups to find some families and to build with that family a raised bed on their property and give them some crops, like we'll find out what they want to grow, whether it's carrots or turnip, whatever. We'll get the seeds for them. We'll show them how to do it, and they can start growing their own vegetables this summer. And then when the fall comes, those vegetables will be taken out of those beds, and we'll be planting some garlic in there for them.
It's a choice that we make to put in the amount of work that we do to know that the food is healthy, and you don't get healthy food from soil that isn't healthy, so it all comes back to the soil.
Kelp is a part of the operation that you have going here. Can you talk about what you do there?
The kelp is like a super powerhouse of nutrients.
We go down to the beach, we load it up, and we bring it here, and we use it to increase the organic matter in our soil. Carolyn, I'd like to show you how we make the kelp juice,
okay,
which we call plant booster. So this has water in it. This has been washed before. This has the salt off. We wash it with fresh water.
Yep.
Because when you put it on the garden, the elements we have, the snow and the rain, washes the salt out. So you don't have to worry about it. You don't want too much salt when you're growing food. But if you're putting it in a bottled product that people are going to buy and put it on their garden, you want to have the salt out of it for them. You want to have less concentration of salt, so we wash it. But anyway, then we put it in this barrel, and then we mix it.
Oh.
So.
Oh. Okay, so that has a very interesting aroma.
Yeah, isn't it? We call it a marine odor.
It's good that smell-o-vision isn't actually a thing right now because this smells so bad.
Do you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, sure. Gold.
Good for you.
It's gold for the garden, right?
Liquid gold. We've produced a liquid seaweed soil conditioner, fertilizer, if you will. So it's a concentrated kelp juice is what we call it. It's called Plant Booster.
It is just beautiful down here today.
This is what we collect and bring up to the farm and make the Plant Booster with and put it on the garlic, and this is powerful nutrient, like on steroids. What the kelp does is it gets in with the plant, and it's full of micronutrients, and it's almost like, picture a straw, like the roots of the plant become sort of a straw, and they're able to take the nutrients into the plant, and they're able to use that food, which they're getting from the kelp, and to grow a lot more, a lot better, a lot more efficiently, and stay greener. And it's just a wonderful thing, kelp.
So just grab a bunch of it and put it in the bag.
Grab and put it in that bag. There you go. This is wonderful. Look at that.
Okay.
All right.
It's a pretty good haul.
Let's bring it home and put it on the garden.
Take it back to the garden.
Carolyn, you take this home, you put it in your garden, and you can put it on top or you can till it in, whatever you want.
Excellent.
I'm just glad you brought so much of that to the office, Carolyn. Now,
it was a smelly ride home.
Now, as you heard, Jane and Brian, they're not acting alone.
Yes, if you'd like to learn more about this story and meet some of the other guerrilla gardeners behind this garlic project, you can head to our website at cbc.ca/nl.
We are not here because of a revenue problem, we're here as a spending problem. And we're afraid that if they just go with the tax increases, that takes the pressure off them to actually reform how government operates.
Ahead of Monday's budget, the Employers' Council says it's time to act.
But what are businesses willing to give up? My conversation with Richard Alexander, that's just ahead. Much to consider as we head to Monday's budget. Take a look at this ad.
Engineered for certainty and crafted for stability. A modernized, revitalized, restructured Newfoundland and Labrador. An affordable government that offers faster access to the right services. A thriving economy with less debt. And hope for our children. This can be our future if government makes the right choices now. We've waited long enough. It's time to act. Visit itstimetoact.ca now to get your voice heard.
Joining me now is Richard Alexander with the Employers Council Newfoundland and Labrador. So Richard, what's the ad about? What's the message here?
Well, this is our call to the people of the province, to everybody, whether you're a union leader, whether you're a business leader, an opposition politician. We have a very serious situation here, and we're asking everybody in this province to come together, admit that we have a spending problem, and then pressure our politicians to put in a plan to modernize, restructure programs and services, make them affordable, and make them perform better. And we want to change this conversation around a fear of change. We want to change it to talk about all the things that we can have as a people and all the potential that we can realize as a province. But in order to do that, we have to get our government to act. We've waited long enough on this. We need to act.
So time to act? Time to act on what?
Well,
specifically, what do you want to see?
Specifically, we want to see a credible, transparent plan to be able to reform and modernize government programs and services, to make those things affordable, make them perform better. I mean, we're putting more money into healthcare than any other province, yet our outcomes are the worst, right? If we do this, if we can get our spending under control, we can get a better healthcare system that delivers the right services to people in communities. And right now what we're doing, according to Dr. Pat Parfrey and Sister Elizabeth in the Health Accord, is we're delivering healthcare in the way it was delivered in 1970s, and our province is completely different. So that's one of the positives for change that we want to start talking about.
As you know, the people here, get the right services and restructure, and they see right away cuts and reductions in services. So it's all well and good to say there shouldn't be fear, but if the government's going to reduce spending the way people, such as your organization, believes it should, how can they do that without there being some pain?
Well, that's the whole thing. We need to have a conversation about that, right? Because what's being proposed here is not austerity. People are using the word austerity. All that's being proposed is, look, we have the highest spending per capita in the country. We need to pull that back closer to what other provinces are able to deliver programs and services. And if we plan for that now and do that over a period of 5 years, we can mitigate any negative impacts that can come from that change. Things like attrition. Things like restructuring government, plan for that, use technology to be able to deliver these programs. But if we don't do that, and we just keep the status quo, or we just rely on taxation to do that, that will be the path to austerity. Somebody from the outside, either the federal government or merchant bankers, will come in and say, you need to close 20 hospitals, you need to cut public sector pensions. So doing nothing is the path to austerity. We can do this ourselves. They're realistic objectives. We can achieve it, but we have to act today.
But with the potential sword hanging over our heads with that scenario, let me ask you a question that I put to two union leaders who are on here and now. What's the business community willing to actually sacrifice to be part of the solution? I tried to ask that of union leaders. Other than basically saying you want to see structural change, possibly cuts or reductions, you can choose the language you want. What's the business community willing to sacrifice?
It's interesting because we recognize how serious this problem is, right? My board of directors, we sat down, we had a conversation about this, and nobody likes to see tax increases. But we said, my board said, look, if there's action by government on the spending, and they believe that they need some support in the short to medium term with tax increases, then we can swallow that. But the reality is that we are here because of a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And back in 2016, the Ball administration tried to tackle this issue by increasing taxes on the highest gas tax in the country, taxes on insurance, highest HST in the country.
Notwithstanding all that, you're willing to accept a tax increase?
We're willing.
On businesses as well as on income tax?
So here's the issue. We have no problem with taxation on profits, but when you start putting taxation on things like insurance, that don't reflect the profitability of a company, that can make those companies uncompetitive, and they might not survive. So again, government increasing taxation, people have to consider, if they increase taxation, that's a relief valve for them. We are not here because of a revenue problem, we're here as a spending problem.
Right.
And we're afraid that if they just go with the tax increases, that takes the pressure off them to actually reform how government operates. And we were supposed to be in balance.
Right.
We were supposed to have a balanced budget next year. And now we're in a worse situation because the problem of spending hasn't been addressed.
Right, but you know, the siren is blaring for that very scenario about some faceless bureaucrat from Ottawa sitting down and red penciling this, that, and the other thing. So I just want to be clear, is the business community ready for increased taxes, at least in the short term, to help deal with this problem?
I think that it will be painful, but I think that we recognize that everybody in this province has to do our part, and we're willing to step up, and we're asking other people and other groups like public sector unions, we're asking social sector, everybody to step up and realize we are Newfoundlanders and Labradorians first. We can have a bright future. We can realize our potential, but right now we have this albatross around our neck, which is a spending problem which gets worse every day, and the longer we delay, the worse it gets. We've run out of time. It's time for us to act.
All right, I suspect you'll be back on Here and Now come Monday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you.
Let's admit it, some words governments use can be confusing. There are two D words we need to talk about: deficit and debt. What's the difference? Well, a deficit is how much money the province is in the hole this year. In other words, how much more we spend than we take in. And debt, in a nutshell, is the result of all the annual deficits, and they add up. We spend a lot on servicing the debt, which means keeping up with our payments, and most of that is paying interest. We're expected to pay $1.5 billion this year. That's a lot of cash. So what can we do about it? There's a saying that when you're in a hole, stop digging. To solve the debt, we have to tackle the deficit and look at our spending every single year. Debt and deficit. This isn't easy stuff, and we're facing another D word: difficult.
We mentioned earlier tonight that Prince Edward Island has released its 5-step moving forward plan. It's the first of the Atlantic provinces to do so, and it could be a sign of what to expect here. Louise Martin is the host of Compass, the 6 o'clock newscast in Charlottetown, and she joins me now. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure to join you tonight.
So Louise, let's get into the specifics. What does this plan look like?
Well, it looks like I'll be making up my spare room at least later this summer if you care for a visit. The message really this morning from the Premier and Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Heather Morrison, is that PEI will reopen this summer very cautiously and carefully. And a lot of this is contingent on vaccination and infection rates. So basically, as you mentioned, it boils down to a 5-step plan. So I'll say June 6th is the first step. It's a baby step with some gathering limits going up here on the island. So right now, those are capped at a household plus 10. That will go up on June 6th to 20, so a household plus 20. The number of people at a table in a restaurant can also go up as well to 20. Step 2 will see further easing, including travel from our friends in Atlantic Canada more freely if you are at least partially vaccinated. That's in late June. And larger weddings will be allowed up to 150 people in cohorts of 50. So it is a slow, easy reopening.
So everyone's wondering about travel. Last summer, we were all part of the Atlantic bubble. What does PEI's plan say about how an Atlantic bubble could look this year?
Yeah, remember that? It was supposed to reopen, what was it, April 19th? So the plan for that is on June 27th. Partially vaccinated Atlantic Canadians will be able to visit PEI without self-isolating. Those who have not been vaccinated, they can still come, but they will have to isolate for a shorter period. So today they talked about maybe 7 to 10 days. And as for whether this plan jives with the rest of Atlantic Canada, including Newfoundland, well, the Premier says he had a call last night with the Atlantic Premiers. Each province will have its own rules, but he does suspect they will be at the end of June, that they will all be aligned. We did hear later this afternoon about New Brunswick. It will remove self-isolation for some people as of June 7th. But Premier Dennis King says PEI wants to be able to control its own destiny. That's how he phrases it. So if on June 27th the bubble opens, PEI will still maintain rapid testing at the border as an added layer of protection. So if you're coming from Newfoundland after June 27th and you have had one shot, you can come, but you will face a rapid test at the border. And the Premier says he feels like that part of it, that rapid testing, is really a key part of having some control and protection at entry points. And eventually the plan looks ahead to September 12th, and that would be no restrictions on gatherings here and no travel restrictions or screening at the PEI border for vaccinated Canadians, so even outside Atlantic Canada.
And plans have been made before. We expected the Atlantic bubble to reopen before, and it didn't happen. What could put a planned reopening in jeopardy again, do you think?
Yeah, we asked that today. What could derail the plan? Would it be a big spike in cases? Dr. Morrison says she's actually really hopeful that these plans will be sufficient, but would become more restrictive if needed. So a big spike in cases or vaccination rates weren't where they were supposed to be. And I think that's what it really boils down to, Carolyn, is that vaccination and infection rates. So for all of us here and all of us in Newfoundland and Labrador, fingers crossed, right?
For sure. Louise Martin, I really appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much.
No problem. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Tomorrow's Friday. This week feels like it went so quickly with the short week. Yeah, it's great. So how's the weekend looking?
It's looking pretty nice, actually. Things are going to start to quiet down, and I mean, we're still going to see the chance of some flurries in the mix for the coastal areas of Labrador in the morning on Saturday, but see that big ridge of high pressure? That's going to move in and clear things out as we head through the day on Saturday into Sunday. Same thing. We'll also note a little bit of those winds are finally going to ease as well. And then as we head into Monday, overnight into Monday morning, we're going to start to see a little bit more cloud cover in play, and also that risk of some showers will be the story across most of the province. As we head into Tuesday, it's going to stay unsettled through the day on Tuesday as well. Temperatures are going to stay into the teens for the most part on Saturday for the island, anywhere from 10 to 14 degrees across the board. Slight chance, like I said, of some showers in the first half of the day or flurries for Cartwright at least, and then you'll see your skies clear into the afternoon, reaching a high near 7 degrees. Same thing for the Northern Peninsula, but that should fall as showers if it does. And then the rest of Labrador, looking at plenty of sunshine, maybe a few flurries for Lab City, and sitting around 8 degrees, and Nain will hover around 3. By Sunday, temperatures are going to climb, and they're going to climb quite nicely across most of the province into the teens again across Labrador. Nothing but sunshine for you. A little bit more cloud cover in play, more of a mix of sun and cloud across the island, but overall, temperatures are going to be beautiful, 15 to 18 degrees, a little cooler for the southwest as well as the Northern Peninsula. You'll be sitting between 11 and 13 degrees. Now after that, temperatures are going to stay mild, but as we head into next week, we're looking at those becoming a little bit more unsettled with the chance of showers even into Tuesday. But look at the temperatures, 19 degrees by the time we get there. It looks like a warming trend as well. So certainly something to keep an eye on as we head into next week, with temperatures above where we should be sitting for this time of year, and overnight lows anywhere from 8 to 11 degrees. As we head through central Newfoundland, you're looking at a similar warm up into Sunday, and then a little bit of a drop on Monday thanks to those showers, but by Tuesday you'll return to the 20-degree mark with overnight lows between 12 and 13 degrees. And then for western Newfoundland, some showers or rain, the story for Monday and Tuesday, 15 to 19 degrees, and your temperature overnight will sit around 12 degrees. For eastern Labrador, you're still going to hang on to those teen temperatures both Monday and Tuesday, although it is looking a little bit more unsettled. Cloudy skies, the story for Tuesday. And then for western Labrador, sunshine finally, maybe a few showers in the mix on Monday, but we're going to say goodbye to that potential for flurries with your temperatures in the teens. Now, I wanted to share this photo. I love this photo. Such a great shot Eric shared with us. Puffins at Cape Bonavista, just hanging out in a row. Great shot there. Thank you so much for sharing that photo. And if you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Lining up for the vaccine shot.
That's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like.
Completely relate to those little birds.
So we're all doing it.
So Ash, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Because of all the wind lately, my tulips are completely warped and they don't look great.
I was talking about that today, actually.
Well, there you go. So I just want to, can we actually plant things safely now without worrying about snow and what does he call it? Grapple?
Grapple? No.
Are we out of the wind?
No.
No?
What is the...
Well,
the frost is
the end
still
the end of June.
That's right.
Really is. I think the end of June is the safest.
End of June, right?
Yeah, that's the
some
last
things
chance of
outside.
frost, yeah.
But they're kind of like garden gambles to make, aren't there?
Oh.
What,
yes.
you want to start doing that?
Well, you can always cover up your seedlings with a plastic bottle.
That's right. Yeah.
A little mini greenhouse and stuff.
Okay, I'll wait till the end of June, I guess.
Best to be safe, for sure, unless you want to take that risk.
Yeah, that's all up to you, Anthony.
Okay, Friday already, you're right. It's been a short week. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.